We are recording.
That's fine.
Ms. Thompson, you're on camera being late.
Uh-oh.
Hi.
I'm going to call Building and Grounds committee meeting to order. I have two statements I'd like to make before we begin. Number one, this is a committee meeting, a segment of the town council, and our responsibilities are to explore alternatives and possibilities and to make recommendations on issue for the entire council to deliberate. So there'll be no bantering back and forth with the audience. We're glad all of you are here. You're welcome. These proceedings are on tape, on camera, but this is for the three of us to go through 4 items and for us to make a recommendation to council. It's not fair to my colleagues to not be involved with conversations with constituents and officials. So the conversation will stay up here and with staff. The second thing is I received a phone call today from the mayor, and he informed me that the Save the Armory group would not be able to be represented today. And initially I told him that the difficulty of getting such a meeting together with staff and with the council members, that we would take the Armory up anyway. But the town manager and I have talked, and there's no urgency to this, and they have done a tremendous amount of work, and I'm going to ask the committee to table this issue until a date that we can get together before the council meeting on the 28th. Is that correct?
Before the 28th.
Before the 28th. So I move that we table the Armory issue until such time that we can continue this meeting to take up the Armory. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we will take that up at another time. So the second item on our agenda is the cemetery policy, and you've got a copy in there. I'm going to turn this over to you in just a minute, Mr. Manager. We have been punting this around for too long. I take full responsibility that I should have nudged. It's not like the town hadn't had a few things stirring in the pot, but we have before us today a one-page document, and then policy on burial and urn receptacle. And I'd like for us to go through this line by line with Mr. Hamner's expertise and your expertise, and hopefully we can present something to the council in their package and something that maybe the council can discuss or adopt. Okay, is that agreeable with y'all?
Yes.
You have the floor, Mr. Manager.
What I have here inside your packet is probably a month ago I doctored some of these up, okay? And when I say doctored them up, I changed that policy for the new section of the cemetery. Because remember, the old section really doesn't have too terribly many rules. And David, you know the rule better than I do, jump in. But the newer sections of the cemetery, which include sections 1 through 17, I think it is. 18, is that right? 1 through 18. But the older section, these rules do not apply. Is that also correct? Okay. The things that I've noticed in the past 5 or 6 years and that have been brought to my attention, if you look at the items that include cut flowers and flowers being left on graves for an extended period of time, okay? This is the modified document that I provided. The current standards, if I'm not mistaken, say that flowers may be placed on graves until such time as they no longer provide to the aesthetics of the cemetery. Is that correct? That's too open, and I replaced that with 30 days, that they have to be removed within 30 days. That at least puts a deadline on it. Now, I've not had a lot of people complain because we're pretty liberal about putting stuff out there. We let people put about what they want until such time as it's not maintained anymore, and then we take it down. But it is a booger to mow around that stuff that's down there, okay? one of the things that I've included here is specific, and we'll go bounce around a little bit, but if you look at number 5, it says no growing flowers, ivy, trees or shrubs may be planted on the lots. That's current. That is in place now. Only cut flowers, potted plants, and artificial flower designs may be placed on headstones. That is different, because I included on headstones, getting them up out of the grass. What I'm trying to accomplish is that we can weed eat and mow around stuff without having to worry that we're going to hit your flower arrangement. Okay. Now we talked a little bit with Wade, and Wade had some concerns about those, what do you call them, hangers, baskets or carriages that go on top of a headstone. Saddles. That they're quite expensive, and maybe what I've put down here may be a little problematic to enforce. Okay. My goal is, and that's not the committee's goal, my goal is to let David's guys be able to weed eat and cut the grass without having to stop and pick stuff up. Okay? That it would be elevated either on top of the headstone or on the base of the headstone. Okay? It may not suit with everybody, but really all these things now aren't totally legal because they're staying there. Some people take care of them, some people don't. So what I was trying to do is put a finite time frame when these things have to be removed, and that's 30 days from burial. Okay?
I'd like for us to present something to council that we enforce. And the Jones and the Smiths or the Greens, it all applies.
How do we enforce
Okay.
that it's still tasteful and adds to the ambiance?
I don't know how you do that. So,
Give me some ideas.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I like what you got here. You said you can do something for 30 days, up to 30 days following interment. I mean, to me, I'm good with it. But we've got an expert here.
Here's your commentary expert.
So we're talking about number 5, Mr. Hammer. I mean, what needs to be added or deleted in your opinion, sir?
No flowers.
Do you have any thoughts about it, David? You're going down and cut it right.
The only thing I got really is,
Join us up here.
the only thing I've got concerned with really is, and that kind of falls under me personally, is, the headstone. My grandparents has got a headstone, but my little sister's buried in that lot. And because you can only have one headstone, right now, I put flowers right at my sister's foot. If we do just headstones, then I'm not allowed to put flowers on my sister's grave no more. That's the only part I see, and somebody else might have the same problem.
Say that again. What'd you say about you won't be able to do?
All right, my grandparents have got an 8-grave lot.
Yes.
You're only allowed to have one headstone.
One family
Headstone.
big stuff,
Right.
yes.
But my sister's not even buried close to the headstone because, she's buried off to the side. With her name being different, I mean, I put a small arrangement right at her stone because she can only have flat mark. If we put it only on headstones, then I can't do nothing for my sister. And I know we'll probably have other people the same way.
You talking about the saddle?
Right, I can't put no saddle on there because
Why
hers is
couldn't you
just
put,
flat.
why couldn't you put a saddle on it?
Because hers is flat, she's not allowed to have upright.
I mean, you can't put it on your grandparents' stone?
I mean, I can, but I can't put it on my sister's. I mean, right
You
now.
can't put it on hers, but, you could put it on the grandparents' stone, you in the 8-grave lot.
I mean, that's what I'm allowed to do.
I mean,
I
your
can't put it-
grandparents are your people too.
Right.
I mean, I'm not gonna argue that point, but,
No, I mean, that's
what
one
I'm
thing I
saying,
see
it wouldn't
wrong.
make any
I mean,
difference to me whatsoever in the world, I'd
The
worry.
biggest thing we got up there is all that stuff around thousands of flowers.
I know that.
That's what
I
I
know
mean,
that.
that would help us eliminate cutting grass, I mean, all that stuff.
It is a help if you get that stuff out of the grass. But you also have folks that won't, so you got a way cutting the grass more easily, or people putting
Well-
on the family.
The only thing I know is when it's easier to cut the grass, you can make the cemetery look better for everybody.
It does look
Okay,
better.
and that's, it's not easy sitting in this chair. You've heard me say that many times, but that's what I want. Something that is concrete, like you said. I don't want anything that's ambiguous, and we can interpret any way we want. I want something that applies to everybody. That's fair. Okay, that's what I want. So I understand what you're saying, and if we get this thing down to where We can write the rules to what is out there, and it'll be 12 pages long, and it won't be enforceable. Does that make sense? We've got to cut it back for the, the needs of the few don't outweigh the needs of the many. I'm sorry. And I know I'm the meanest man in Blackstone. And I love this town more than any, I have lived 25 places in my life, but I've been here 30 years. Where do you think home is? This is home. I will be buried here. But, I mean, somebody's got to make these decisions. And somebody, that's what we were elected to do. And sometimes it's not comfortable.
What would you do? You've been filming the cemetery regularly. Would you get the stuff up off the ground?
I
What
think
would
it's
you,
still,
what's a fair resolution?
it's not gonna be fair, really. When you look across the board, it's not gonna be fair. You'll have this bunch over here, and y'all know it, and this bunch here, and this bunch here. But what I see is an eyesore up there, when you go up there and see 30 little flowers, plastic flowers from, and I'm not down in these places at all, Family Dollar, Dollar General, Walmart, stuck, only about 30 of them stuck in one little single. That's outrageous.
I know, and I've seen it. There's no way the only way that you can do it is pick them up, cut the grass, and put them back. And you can't do, and then if you put it back, you ain't gonna put it back to suit, and it's a nightmare.
And then you see these, the
So,
ones with the hobby horses and the teddy bears. And I mean, I know that people love the kids, and I don't know what I would do if I had one there. I swear, I do not know. But I guess that's where they are showing their love to the loved one that's gone on before them. And I don't want to be in y'all's trash.
well,
It's not gonna be easy.
somebody has got to make these decisions. And I understand. I just buried my mother months ago. I miss her every day. But I know the cemetery she's buried in have the rules that are very specific, and it's a beautiful cemetery. And while I was there, I spoke to the funeral director about it, and he said that they had the same problem, that everything was amok, and everybody was the biggest complaint was about weeds and this, that, and the other, and the same thing that you're talking about was there. And when they cut it out, it was crying and gnashing of teeth, and then in about 6 months he hadn't heard anything about it. And my grandparents were buried there, and I remember what the cemetery looked like when my grandparents were buried in the 80s, and the way Mama was buried months ago, and it's been fixed, and the griping and the crying and all has left. That's the only thing I have to go by. I'm sitting here by a man that graduated summa cum laude in his field and has made a career. So I have to go by what he says. But my personal experience is you're not gonna make everyone happy. And I tell you, with social media and everything there is today, I don't care what we do up here in this chair, you're not gonna make anybody happy.
I
And
think the Roman people actually plant flowers on the grave. That looks real terrible.
We can't do that in new section, and if you say block so-and-so, so-and like that, don't anybody know what you're talking about. I don't know myself. But if you go down through the middle of the cemetery, Pine Street cuts across from Pine Street west to the end of the cemetery, where you got to turn around. That's a new section from Pine Street. And then when you go in the cemetery, over on the left, that new section that's over there, that is a new section. That is the section we're talking about. Pine Street west and over to your left. What is that, Oak Street?
Willow.
Huh?
Willow.
Okay. So, there were no rules or regulations or anything in the old part of the cemetery. You did what you want to, and more or less, they burned them, and that's where it was. But family would come back and put flowers on, but we didn't have all this artificial flower stuff now. It stays on there 2 weeks. The sun's right down on it, fades it. It's an eyesore. That's the silence I'm talking about. You got to have something. They can't put a sign on there from Easter to Easter.
Oh, no.
And
She got something to say, look at her face.
You got to draw the line somewhere. You take them all.
You know, let me tell you something, Grenese. I'm not a big bad evil man. Both of my grandmothers buried my uncles. I lost two uncles. I only had two. They died at 50, both of them. Both sides. I watched my grandmother bury their sons. So I'm as sympathetic to anything, but I'm sitting in this chair and I'm supposed to be dictating policy to allow the town manager to run this town. And what I see here on number 5 is what it should be. I'm sorry. And if it offends anyone, you know, we don't have the manpower to articulate around every individual taste. And that's just the bottom line. We just can't.
I agree with you. I mean, I didn't say you was bad.
I know,
don't think
but
you were bad.
a lot of people think I'm a big nasty man sitting in this chair. No, I'll fight for this town to the death.
only thing I know years ago, 7, 8 years ago maybe, I sat and I wrote letters to everybody that I could find that had a plot up there at Lakeview and told them all the statues, all that stuff had to be removed. One person came to remove their statue. One.
It's gonna be up to us to move the stuff, because a lot of people are out of town,
Yeah,
whatever,
one
we're gonna have to
person
go through
came,
there.
And I was
and they'll start pulling
almost
stuff out.
tempted about 4 months after that to call her and say, bring it back, nobody else moved it. I mean, that's the way I was getting the feel.
Is there any objection on the committee to number 5?
I got one thing. Yeah, I got one thing on.
All right.
When you say only cut flowers, what are you talking about?
Like a bouquet.
A bouquet
you know,
of
fresh cut
roses
flowers.
or-
Fresh
Fresh
cut. That's where, is it fresh? I mean, are cut flowers artificial flowers?
No, I think that's a separate item where it says artificial below that. I
Okay.
said,
Well, that might
only
have-
cut flowers, we could put fresh in there, so it's clear.
Well,
That needs to be clarified right
well,
there.
only cut flowers, potted plants, and artificial flower designs. So are you saying strike artificial flower designs? Is that what you're
I
saying?
think you need to
No,
add
he
fresh to
said
cut
cut
flowers.
flowers.
Okay,
That's fresh.
Fresh cut flowers.
okay. And you're
And you
agreeable,
speak-
you're,
Excuse me a second. Potted plants, you know, you can get those in artificial also.
It says potted plants and artificial.
Are you speaking of potted plants? I mean, do you think that word fresh potted plants or the and would clarify it?
Potted plants. That's
Only fresh cut
live.
flowers and potted plants, as well as artificial flower designs.
Okay.
Okay, that's no problem.
These are live. Shrubs and plant lots. Only cut flowers and potted plants.
But it means we're gonna have to start going out here and picking these things up. We'll notify everybody and just say, hey,
just so I'm clear, I'm sorry, Mr. Manager. So you don't have an objection, Mr. Hamner, to artificial flower designs?
No.
Okay, so what needs to be added? Only fresh cut flowers? Is that what you're saying?
and
And,
potted plants,
okay,
and artificial,
As
But-
well as.
as well as artificial.
okay, all right. Does those changes suit the committee?
These graves, next one, number 6.
Well, let's get, if you don't mind, sir,
Well, I
is
don't
number five satisfactory to
Yes,
you?
sir.
All right, number 5 is satisfactory to the committee, so we'll move on. Number 6.
Well, let's, I bounced around to
Okay.
number 5, if you don't mind. We can go back to number 2.
Okay,
There's a discrepancy that's been brought to my attention that our rules and regulations of the new section of the cemetery specifically say on an 8 grave lot, the stone has to go in the center. But it does not say specifically that the stone has to go in the center on a 4 grave lot. It does not say that specifically. I think it's how it's been enforced. I think it's how it's been laid out. You've been messing with that cemetery long before I was ever around Blackstone. And I think that's the way it's been from time immemorial. But I think there is a question, at least one question, about do I have to put a stone in the center of a 4 grave lot? It does not, in our policy, specifically say that you have to put a stone in the center of a 4 grave lot. 8 grave, yes, not in the fall. So that's been brought to my attention. I've spoken a bit with some of you guys about it, and albeit, and I remember when we made a water and sewer connection to a business here in town, and we did the same way, we had charged just exactly as we always have, but it didn't specifically say it in the town's ordinance that that's how it was done. Been done 1,000 times by the town, but it didn't specifically say it. So I'm actually going to talk about that a little bit. There is a request to not center a headstone on a 4-grave lot that's pending here in town right now. Okay? There is a pending question about that. And the town's ordinances, or the town's rules,
I hate to interrupt you, I just wanna make sure you don't go around the corner and I'm like a hubcap, I fall off, okay? So when you say pending, you mean someone has made,
made a request to not put,
I understand, has the stone been set?
no.
Okay, all right. All right,
So we have enforced it many, many times. Quineth and David have accurately done it, but we have, I guess, a loophole.
have you turned people down before when they've asked?
We
Dave,
got one on the books now, that one, the headstone is in the center of the 4-grave lot. They want to move it over so they can put another one just for their permit.
the 2 graves.
Again, I'll yield to Mr. Hamlin.
If you go, a full lot is 8 graves. If you cut in half, you got 4 east and 4 west. 4, 4. And I think it's not spelled out in language on the paper, but I think it's understood. 4 graves, the same applies to 4 graves as it does to 8.
It's already been done for
And if you
how long?
deviate, you get the little line.
Now, we do have some that we've seen that aren't exactly straight.
You're going back to the old cemetery where you put them, it didn't make any difference.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, you're suggesting that we change this policy to read, if placed on a 4 or 8 grave lot.
I think you gotta differentiate, you gotta decide, in this particular case, that was brought to our attention before we've had this conversation. Do you wanna have that one be the last one, is that the end of it, or do we wanna move forward and say any pending also applies?
What have you done in the past? Have you ever
In the
had?
center of the floor?
Okay, well then I think,
That's what this individual been told, you gotta put it in the center of the floor. Their contention is it doesn't say that in the rules, it doesn't specifically say that, it says it's gotta be center of 8, but it doesn't address the 4 specifically. And it was an
Well-
8-grave lot, now it's a 4-grave lot, and they're
Okay,
asking for
then-
consideration.
everybody jump in here, I need some help with this. It sounds to me like that's two different, we're talking about 2 different things. What I'd like to do is get through this policy and then
Deal with that one
deal
particular
with
issue.
that at the end of this, okay? And then that'll be something we go to council with.
I
Do
agree.
you want to make that exception? But on this particular item, I would, based on listening to Councilman Hamner, I would like for this to say, if placed on an 8 or 4 grave lot, the stone must be at the center. Is that appropriate?
That's the way I like it.
Is that the way you like it, Barbara?
Sounds
All right, so
good.
that's
It
what
needs
we'll
to
do.
be- It needs to be resolved.
So you'll make the change to an 8 or 4 grave lot on this policy, and at the end of this discussion, we'll hear about your exception. How's that? All right, where do you want to jump to now?
Number 2, I think is pretty basic, and there's
We
no
just did
changes
number
to that.
2.
Number 4, I think we already addressed the cut flowers, potted plants, and artificial flowers, and we'll change the verbiage to exactly what we had just talked about.
Okay,
But we'll go to number 6, and as you know, there's also some issue about number 6. Graves shall be leveled following interment if the grave settles. It is the sole financial responsibility of the funeral home, and I don't know if that's the proper term. Should we say funeral director, or what's the correct term? The responsibility of the funeral home to ensure that the grave does not settle, or in the event it does, the grave is leveled. I think we have pretty good response to that. But I think on occasions what I've understood is that some of the folks that dig the graves have been told after 6 months, we're not going to go in there and do anything. But I think we need to clarify, it is the responsibility of the people that handle the funeral, that they make sure the grave doesn't settle perpetually, okay?
You are not gonna have a funeral out there and the requirements are that they use the word vault.
Mhm.
Should be outside receptacle. When they bring these vaults in here, you are dealing with over 2,000 pounds and the cable goes the long way and you got to put a little mound of dirt on each end, about this far from the wall of the grave on the end. So that man, when he sets that vault down on these two little mounds of dirt, he can pull his cables out. And when you get rain, that earth has got to go back up under that vault. And the earth never goes back together when you open a grave.
That's correct.
It never goes. You can spade it out years from now. And right now you'd have to pick it out or use a backhoe. So you are going to have things, especially around the corners, on each end. The ends are the worst, but you're going to have it, and you're going to have to fill it, especially if you get a hard rain.
We have water and sewer lines, and trust me, water and sewer lines will settle invariably every time. Even if you put all stone back in the trench, she's going to settle. What we just want to clarify is that's the responsibility of the funeral home or the funeral director or whoever's arranging for the cemetery or for the funeral project. We just don't want to 2 months from now go back and we're having a contested situation where who's supposed to be fixing that. That's what we want to do.
So, first of all, you've got some issue on funeral home. What do we want to call that? Funeral home or?
Well, the funeral homes are opening graves. Now, the town no longer opens a grave out there.
Correct.
They did for years and years and years, but the town doesn't do it. The funeral home is responsible for it. David marks them off.
So
They
the
send
funeral
them in.
home is the correct term.
It is,
Okay.
but you know, actually, and I'm not taking up for the funeral home, it's gonna sink. They ought to come back and level this thing one time, and then it ought to be the town's, after he does his
One time.
one time,
Uh-huh.
and they might have to do a pinch here and there, but the town ought to be able to do that.
Okay, well, then let's agree to recommend a time limitation before it becomes the town's responsibility.
You
What would
can't do a time because if you get in a drought, like in the summertime, you might have not enough rain in 2 or 3 months to come back and you got to have ample amount of rain before you get your best packet.
Well, it sounds to me like, not to argue with an expert, but it sounds to me like that, eventually, the town it says here, the town will sow grass on bare lots at its expense. In the event the town's required to level graves, the cost will be assessed to the operator of the funeral home. I agree with you, but there again, we're making a policy that depends on the weather. So I just like to set a time,
Well, let's put it, excuse me for cutting it off.
right?
When you sow this, you're not gonna sow it until it's been packed. I mean, in other words, you've had a rain. You're not gonna sow a fresh grave, are you?
Only if we ain't had no rain. I mean, I try to get them all done by fall, and then I try to do them again by spring, so it look good for summer.
In other words, you're gonna sow a fresh grave that hadn't had any rain on it.
We have done it before, just so we can try to get the grass seed on it. Cause we get you'd be surprised if people call fussing. We went 2 months and ain't done nothing with it. Rain for tell you, we get phone calls like crazy. So, sometimes we have to sow grass on them, just so we can.
And
try
then when
to
they get the
please
rain, you got a sunken grave.
Sometimes we have to come back, fill it in, and then reseed it again.
Reseeds again. I don't have an answer for that.
Do you have a suggestion of a 90-day period or a 180-day period or?
I think the easiest, most codified way is put a date on it.
That's what I say.
But what do you think worked, David? He's your practitioner. He's out there fooling with these things all the time. And he's right. He gets a lot of calls and complaints about them, and I do too.
I have dug graves and I have, for the town in person, and for funeral home. You got to take time and put a little bit of dirt in there, walk it down, put a little bit more dirt in, walk it down.
Same as the sewer line.
Dump dirt in there and level it, it's not gonna, it will never go back right.
Mm-hmm.
You got to take time, and some of these people come in there, they'll just take the tractor and push it in and not do nothing to it.
So I guess my question is under normal circumstances, is 90 days that, you know, they're responsible for, or how many months do you think they should be responsible? And then after that, we're gonna do it anyway, but we don't send them a bill. Because if you tell Mr. Joe Blow of Joe Blow Funeral Home, this is your problem for 90 days, and
I would say
you're giving them if you're giving them the opportunity, then you don't need to bill them. But if they don't know, and you just send them a bill, that's not fair.
I would say make them come back and check it for the first 90 days, and after that, then the town could take it over. Because, like Mr. Tanner says, you gotta have room to get them cables out.
Yeah.
And if you get rain, it's gonna settle.
Well, I understand all that, but I just don't see how there's any way anybody could keep up with it unless you didn't put a time period on it. Are you right? But
I never saw one that didn't sink.
No, they all sink, just like a sewer line. Every one of them does.
One that didn't sink.
so what do you think is what do you think is fair? Is 90 days fair?
Very extensive, I think.
Well, do you suggest less?
Well, if I was, I'd give them a 60-day. And then if you don't have any rain this summer like that, when it does rain, it's your responsibility.
So if I'm hearing this correctly,
Yes.
I would make it 90 days. That way you span a dry spell.
that's right.
30, 60, go 90 days.
It's the funeral home's responsibility for 90 days. After such time, the town will consider it maintenance.
And we've got to notify them as soon as it settles, because it may take a while for them to get out there to work on it. So we've got to, we got to note them things and then send them the thing.
I think when we present the policy, we should remind the funeral director, this is your baby for 90 days. So if you don't take care of it and we have to take care of it, we're gonna send you a bill.
I think right now there's no time limit. As long as it settles, it's their show.
So do we take that sentence out of here?
Pardon?
There is no time limitation on this responsibility?
That would come out and that would be replaced with 90 days.
We're gonna take that out.
Is that agreeable to you, Mr. President?
That good?
I just
David,
don't
that good with
see,
you?
I just don't see,
I would think so, that way that way they are responsible for a little bit of it, 'cause
I think you got to span at least a dry summer or something like that, and then that way it'll give you some time.
I mean, if you, can you live with that, sir? All right, we move on to the next one.
All equipment used by the funeral home operator, its designee, or its contractor shall be removed from the cemetery property immediately following usage. I think what we've got sometimes is overnight the backhoe gets left in there. And it's not the end of the world, but we do have now where they can put the backhoe over at the shed that we've put in.
Across the creek, we
And
built,
so we've given them an option that they don't have to drive on the public road. They don't have to. They can just take it across the creek and park it up under the shed and be done with it. And I would prefer not to have that backhoe sitting in there overnight.
I hope y'all feel like I do, but I'm adamant about this. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous that you can't go across that bridge and you'll let them park it wherever you want to.
Yeah,
Out
we've
of
given
sight.
them a good spot. Now, at first it was, well, we don't have anywhere to put this dirt, or we don't have anywhere. Now, we spent the money putting the double barrel culverts in and put the road in and built a shed, and they've got a good
It's
spot.
cleaned up, it looks, it's wonderful. Best
Got
thing
that
we've
old
done.
shed out of there.
Yeah,
It's a whole
yeah.
big improvement. So I would
Any
like to.
objection to that sentence, Madam President?
Good.
All right, carry on.
It says, no time shall the equipment be permitted to remain overnight. No fill material remaining after interment shall be left in the cemetery. All excess fill material and equipment may be located in a location designated by the town. And we know that's across the creek over in that big pile that they're all. And I don't think we've had any problem with it recently. I think there were some Richmond folks that did a funeral probably 6-8 months ago, and they left a big pile. And but other than that, I think the local guys have got that pretty good.
Okay. So
Cost of
that sounds agreeable to the committee, is that right?
Right.
Okay.
Cost of a grave space is $400, and this is reflective of the new prices that were adopted. 10% is applied to perpetual care. All graves shall be sold with perpetual care. The above amount must be paid in full at time of purchase. 1/2 of every corner lot is hereby reserved for the town for planting a shrubbery. I think this is all stuff that's already in there. Vaults shall be used for all burials. 2 vaults may be placed in one grave, one on top of the other. No pets are permitted on the premises. That's not what goes on down there now. There's a plenty folks walking their dogs in there.
Right, so,
And-
before we go any further, is there any objection from committee members?
Here's
Present-
here's the issue, though. State code, and I think we talked about this 6-8 months ago, a year or so ago. The cemetery can't be closed. We cannot put closed after 8 o'clock. We can't do that because if I want to go see Charles Edwards' grave and carry Chris over to go see Mama Tootsie, we've got to be able to get in there. Okay. The issue is the pets. Not that we close the cemetery. You can't do that. It's going to stay open. But the pets being walked in the cemetery is the issue. Okay. That is the
fine.
issue. And we can post that, put signs up, and I think the only problem is the dogs poop on Grandma's grave, and nobody really crazy about seeing that.
All
Okay.
right, you
All right.
good with this? All right, carry on. We never did talk about number 3.
By all means, I think Juanita has something she'd like to
Yes,
add.
ma'am,
On number 8, y'all mind going back to that,
okay.
we got the cost of grave space. I would like to see somewhere put in here the cost of cremation for an urn
I was going to put that on the next page.
on the next.
Yes,
Yeah, we
ma'am.
have another
You know
page.
that one, I didn't know which
We've
one.
got an earned policy, and I think that was going to be on the
Right.
next page.
So let's jump back to number 3. You haven't briefed us on number 3.
It says no curbing allowed, and I don't believe I've changed this.
Okay.
This is the original verbiage. No curbing allowed around lots, and all corner markers, foot and headstones, except for one family stone must be placed flush with the ground.
Any objections, council, committee members?
Is that what we're doing? One family stone must be placed, but you can do more than a family stone flush. You can put an elevator stone, can you not?
You can only have one headstone and then the rest has to be flush.
I'm not sure I know what a headstone is.
Well, big money,
Understand.
like,
The
say,
headstone
It's
is
another
the
space.
Norbeck, you don't have one for Norbeck up
In the
there.
center of a grave.
Right, and then individual foot markers for each.
That's what a
stone.
headstone is.
Right.
Is the
Headstone is
individual
the big
one. Okay.
The headstone is the big one.
But the
in
big
center.
one.
The flush is what.
Flush we should
on
put
each
down on the
grave
ground.
space.
But a family stone must be placed flush with the ground? Is that the correct term?
That ought to be an individual grave marker.
Yeah.
Individual grave marker.
Can you change that verbiage? Madam Clerk?
And what do you want to accept? What do you want to call individual?
It's supposed to be,
Individual grave markers must be placed flush with the ground.
Right.
Is that right?
you can have one family stand-up headstone on there and the rest of it gonna be flush.
So if you would humor me, would you start with what you got in front of you and tell the clerk what you want to change and how you want to change it?
All right, no curving the light around lots, and all corner markers, foot and headstones, except one family stone must be placed flush with the ground.
I get what
Okay.
you're saying. Everything must be flush except
Yeah.
one family
Right.
stone in the middle.
And that's what it says.
Isn't that what it, so it's correct? Okay. Is it agreeable to the committee?
What is
Yeah.
curbing? I don't know what that is.
It's like you see like walls around it. Some
In
of
the
the
old
old sections
section,
got
you
walls
got
around it.
walls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that like that,
Okay, yeah.
that stone wall.
Okay.
How about we
Alright.
read it like this? No curbing allowed around the lots. And all corner markers, foot and headstones must be placed flush with the ground, except for one family stone, which may be raised.
And all corner markers, foot and headstones.
Foot and headstones, and individual grave markers. Or is that a foot and a headstone? Is that the same thing as a foot and headstone?
Yeah, no, not a headstone.
No, not headstone.
It says
Footstone.
foot and headstones.
You can't do the headstone flush with the ground. You got to,
And all corner markers,
All corner markers.
foot and headstone.
Are foot and headstones the things that are the flush to the ground? Is that what y'all?
The
Headstone
flush
stand
with
up,
the
doesn't it?
ground.
except the headstone.
Why don't we do it easy? All markers
Must be
flush to the ground except for one
There you go.
Headstone.
family stone, which must be placed in the center of the.
That makes
Okay,
sense. One
so-
bar,
and-
one.
All markers
And that includes corner, foot, headstones, everything.
must be flush with the ground,
except for one family stone.
except for one family stone.
Beneath just an interest question, that 10% of only 10% goes into perpetual care. Didn't it used to be 50%? When did it change that?
The state code says you can't put less than 10%.
Right.
And we went up from 200 to 400, I don't know, 2 years ago. We
We
specified
did that,
directly
we
on
did
code.
that right before you got on the committee.
Okay, all right,
We're putting the minimum amount.
all right.
And just for some of y'all in the audience, or watching, perpetual care is not maintenance of the facility. It is a fund that we have to set aside in case the town would go defunct and the state or whoever would come in and have to take over the cemetery, then there would be these funds there available for that. Obviously, the wonderful job Finance Committee is doing is keeping us afloat, and we won't have that problem.
Just for your information, we got about $212,000 in that.
Right.
Is that the same as the escrow
Pardon?
account?
It is. It's an escrow.
Perpetual care is the same as an escrow.
Approximately,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes,
It's
it
set
is.
aside,
Very
and
well.
it's at CCB Bank. We took bids, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and it's sitting in a separate, identified.
You can't use
CD.
it except the interest or whatever it generates.
You can use the interest. We're not currently using the interest. It's just rolling back right into the same fund. Okay. All right, we good there?
Okay, and the grave sizes and all that's the same?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one's okay?
Yes.
All right, so this page, you'll make the changes and email them to us, and then we'll make this recommendation to council. Is that correct? All right,
If you go to the policy on burial of urns and receptacles in Lakeview Cemetery, I haven't made any changes, but I think urns are a little more common now than they used to be, and we certainly get a lot of questions about them. And we'll read the first one. A family agent of the deceased must contact the town office and execute a burial permit for the interment in Lakeview Cemetery. The town manager or his agent must be contacted regarding the burial location of the urn. The excavation for the urn must provide a minimum cover of 1 foot of earth over the urn. The backfill is to be well tamped to prevent settlement around the urn. Special conditions requested by family regarding the burial must be approved by the, it says but it should be by the town manager or the cemetery committee. Only 2 urns or receptacles may be placed in one grave space. A flush headstone may be placed between the 2 urns. And if I'm not mistaken, what Gwinneth is talking about, and I've got a note here, the cost of the urn burial fee is $50. And usually, how do you handle a urn burial?
The last couple times it was $100.
Okay.
Plus the salary of the person, like if David goes in on Saturday and Sunday, plus that amount of his salary.
And that's to be paid prior to the burial.
Right.
Okay. So you've been charging $100. Now, with David's time, say David goes out there and digs the hole, how do you collect his salary prior to the burial?
I would rather set a fee than I would an arbitrary number, because if he's on vacation, you send somebody else, and then you got somebody griping, you charge me 72 and they paid 61. Just
we-
make a
I
fee.
would like to, that's what I wanted to
Set
say. I
figure.
would like to have a flat fee to charge.
All right, so generally, how much labor does it cost? Generally, just
An hour?
what's fair?
Now, let's put it this way. We don't call our guys out for any less than 2 hours.
2
right?
hours.
So we figure
So that's your minimum.
that's the minimum. If you come out for 15 minutes to bury an urn, you still get paid for 2 hours.
Well, that's fair. I
So
do
we
the same
assume-
thing with my
let's-
people.
Let's assume David's gonna be the primary guy, and he is, to come out here and bury an urn,
Okay.
all right? David, I would say to collect David's fee, or, for 2 hours, you're gonna have to collect 75, 80 bucks to pay all the benefits and all that, so.
Because it's overtime too, isn't it?
Pardon?
It's overtime.
Quite likely, so I would say $200, the $100 fee plus the $100 to pay for the cost of the employee.
Would that,
Is the $100 there, is that opening and closing? Is he opening and closing?
Yes.
If it ain't no funeral home involved.
If
Funeral
no-
home
I got-
involved,
yeah.
Yeah, if it's no
They-
funeral home.
Yes,
And we're
that's,
getting more
that's good.
people to call.
$200 is fair, you think?
I think $200.
And then we're not gonna worry about how much he makes or Wallace makes or somebody
Right,
else.
just be a flat fee, that
Flat
way we
fee.
can.
Flat fee,
I like that
Sounds
better. Flat fee brings less commotion.
that's right.
Agreed? Any other changes to this?
I think there were some questions that I had heard previously about,
Get that down to add the $200 fee. Now, I do before, I'm sorry. Number 3.
Excuse me just a minute.
Yes, sir.
Thinking back, if David doesn't do it, how much you gonna charge for the, say if I did it for somebody, what do you charge me for, what I owe the town?
In the past, if we done $100.
$100.
And say Winston went up there and done it, $150.
If the family does it, it's,
And if family does it, we pretty much got away from that, and that. if
We got
they
away from
call and
that because
ask,
they were
we
doing
get
it,
one
we
of our
didn't know
town
about it.
workers.
I agree. I don't want that. I don't-
We got away from that. We used to get one of our town workers to dig.
That
do
what we
it,
knew has been
And he's there
done.
to cover
And
it.
we got
But
away
the funeral home's not involved.
if the funeral home's not involved, the town has got to be involved, and individual, okay, that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
Well,
but
can
we know
we,
that-
can we put that in this policy?
$200.
No. I'm talking about the $200, yes, and also that either a funeral home or the town
Has to be involved.
has to be involved. Has
They
to,
still have to get us to approve the location, do we not? Just
exactly,
like we
but
do
I'm saying,
anytime.
I'm talking about
Maybe
digging the
add
hole.
something there at 4.
Hmm?
Maybe you can add to send us there, number 4. The town, however y'all want to word it.
I want to cut clear and dry that a funeral home or a town employee will dig the hole.
So
I
if
mean,
the
that-
funeral home does it, do you just charge
We don't
100?
charge.
We don't
Funeral
charge
home
nothing,
takes care
funeral
of it.
homes does
Oh,
it.
okay, okay.
But they still have to notify us for we can mark the
Okay.
spot. I mean,
Mhm.
But do you have a fee for going out there and marking it?
nope, we don't charge them for marking any of them.
If a permit fee,
I disagree.
huh?
I think, I mean, he's got to go out there, he's got to be paid. So we need,
See, we don't do a fee from the borough. We don't get nothing out of it.
Bradford Cemetery in Petersburg does nothing. But you call them, I reckon they mark it. You send your grave diggers in there, which is usually the bulk company, they have a $75 recording fee. In other words, for those guys going out there and doing something.
We don't have nothing, I mean,
we need to I mean, the cemeteries are already losing money, okay?
Big time.
Okay,
that's the bad
so,
part on, that's like on weekends. I mean, you don't get nothing. If somebody calls me to go mark a grave right now, we don't get nothing from me going out there. You
The
do
town's
the-
eating the overtime.
Right, you use the overtime for me having to go out there.
well, I think there ought to be $100 fee. I mean,
It should be something to recover my fee when I go to a weekend, but that's up to council. I mean, but right now, we don't get nothing.
I don't care if it's during the week, you're taking him off of something else. I mean, it's got to be
You get
paid.
Mhm.
For doing it on the weekend.
The town pays it.
I say you get paid,
Right,
but
I get paid,
the
but
town doesn't get any
they don't get nothing,
reimbursement
right.
whatsoever in the world.
Right. the town
But
pays
my
no
point
cost.
is if he's on a project and you know, you got to pull him off of that to go do that, then that could result in who knows what. It's an expense. I mean, I don't care what you call it. I mean, I think there should be $100 fee for it, regardless. Am I wrong? I mean, we charge a fee to go put a pink slip on the door. We charge for all that stuff. I mean, if you sending him out, director of public utilities out, and we don't charge anything, that's not
No.
right.
I don't know if the town's ever charged anything, has it?
Been like that ever since I've been doing it. I mean, but
I'm asking the committee, do y'all have a problem with a $100 fee?
I don't.
Do we call that a permit fee?
Well, that everybody buried out there, you're gonna,
No, we're specific. We're talking about urns. Oh, you talking about?
I would think that the time to collect that is when they buy the lot for 400, and then there's a permit fee when I sign the permit, and Gwinnett gets all the details and everything that they go ahead and, if you're going to have a fee for this, put a $100 fee for that. So before the burial takes place, they paid 400 for the individual grave and $100 for David, basically to go out there and Gwinnett to process it. All I do for the most part is I sign them.
Right.
You know, is everything right? And I do it.
I think, me personally, I think the $100 already charged at the time they request a burial.
regardless of a traditional vault or urn, $100 either way. That's what I'm in favor for.
Because if you only charge $100, if you got an E-grade lot, you only charge them $100 to bury 8 people. They might call me, Christmas or
8 times.
whatever, yeah. So I would say if you were charged, to me, you'd have to almost do it
Not when they buy, but don't you do a permit for an individual grave?
At the time of
at
death.
the time of
Time of
death.
death.
At the time, yeah.
So,
Not when they buy it, but at
so
the time of
I
death.
think the permit fee should be $100.
Right, at the time of the death, there should be a fee.
Any
Cover my
objection?
expense.
Any objection to adding that to the policy? So that my question is, would that be number 13 or is it under here?
No, that needs to be on the first page.
First page, number 13, that
So do you wanna call it the processing fee like Mr. Hammer did, or do you wanna call it a permit fee?
the
I think permit fee.
permit fee.
Okay.
And this permit fee's got to be paid before we can send the information back to the funeral home for them to.
Correct. But what we gotta do, that's gotta apply for the old section too, doesn't it?
None, it's
Not
fine.
all of them.
All right.
Anytime you have a
So that
permit.
we need to do that, not by policy, that needs to be part of the ordinance.
Right.
Because we have a whole series of ordinances on the books too,
Right.
that apply to the old section and the new section.
Can y'all take care of that?
Yep.
I think that's the will of the committee, am I right? Okay, so that we'll have a,
The funeral home's got to be notified of this,
sure,
Oh, sure.
sure.
huh?
Yeah,
They've got to be
Sure.
notified, provided
You
this
still
is
want
passed
in
by
the
council.
policy.
we'll take care of
The
that.
funeral home will be collecting this $100. We don't have to collect it when the borough permit.
It's signed.
Yeah, but the people's not gonna know they go owe this $100, like you said, because they're going through the funeral home.
Yeah.
Well, but does the funeral home buy the grave lots or the individuals?
But the funeral home applies for the permit.
They apply for the
That's when the
permit.
$100 needs to be collected, when Joe
So
or.
I said, you got to tell the funeral homes,
Because
and
they
they
won't
can tell the
charge
town
the
that says,
customer
Yeah.
the town is charging you $100 to take care of this paperwork, putting this grave in the correct spot.
And so before I sign the permit, the individual death,
You don't have to give $100 in.
do you need to collect $100?
All right, that agreeable with the committee? Okay, I have a question about number 3. All right, so the excavation of the urn must provide a minimum of 1 foot of earth over the urn. The backfill is to be well tamped, blah, blah, blah. Is it their responsibility for 90 days to maintain that?
I think we need to add the 90 days, if
Okay.
it's gonna be for that
You're
one.
not gonna have any sinking of this, because it's just like putting this right in the hole you dug, it's sitting right on the bottom.
Okay.
You're not gonna have any sinking there.
And a funeral home or David's going to do it anyway. So you don't think it needs to
I
be
don't
worried
think
about?
it- no.
That's fine. That's fine.
You don't
I
have
don't
a
know
problem
these
with
things. That's
that.
why I'm asking you. It's nice to have him sitting there. I'll tell you that. Okay. All right. So, is there anything else that you want to add or tweak?
I do think number 4, where it says special conditions requested by family regarding the burial, et cetera, must be approved by the town manager or the cemetery committee. I think you could put that on for the general cemetery policy, not just urns. Okay, like we've been doing. If we have somebody that doesn't want to put a stone in a certain location, or they don't want to do these things, or somebody makes a special appeal about leaving some flowers or ornaments or something like that, then it needs to be an appeal to the cemetery.
Well, the only problem I have with that is I want you to drop the cemetery committee, because this body here doesn't have the authority you do. Okay, we're not in the position to make any decisions
Take it
about
to town
policy.
council.
No, take it to you, and if there's an appeal, it would be the council.
Gotcha.
But I don't see, we're here to get together, to keep from all of us getting together, you know? So, I don't.
The town manager.
The town manager is,
Appeals will be directed to the town council.
that's correct.
Got it.
All right? Anything else? Oh, so as presented with the changes, we're gonna make this recommendation to council. The only thing I don't see here is an effective date, so what can we agree? When would you say an
I think the
effective
effective
date?
date needs to be upon adoption, or 60 days, or the 1st of January, but let the council decide when they want to.
Well, I mean, we're carrying
Make 1st January.
January 1 suit,
That way we have time to notify everybody and tell folks to get rid of their flowers and their cut flowers.
so that'll
and
be
all
our recommendation. So I move that we present the policy presented with the changes to be for council adoption to take effect January 1, 2018.
that. There you go.
second by Mr. Hammond. All in favor? Aye. Okay. So it looks like we've got a cemetery policy to go before council. Thank goodness. All right, item number 3, Mr. Manager, is the Bon Secours lease.
I've spoken with Harold Cummings from Bon Secours, and on 2 occasions, I've received correspondence from Bon Secours, and the first of which was dated March 27th. And you guys may have seen this. This is a lease proposal that was sent to us on Bon Secours letterhead, but with the request that we deal with a real estate agent with CB Rich Ellis. You've seen those big commercial folks up in Richmond. That we are to communicate directly with a Rebecca Brickolo, who's very polite, very cordial on the phone, but there's something in that lease agreement that I really don't understand. And it says very clearly, the last paragraph where it says broker representation. The last paragraph on the first page of the March 27th letter.
Right there.
It says the landlord and tenant, or excuse me, the tenant and landlord both acknowledge and agree that CB Rich Ellis Incorporated is exclusively representing the tenant through its agents Joe Marchetti, Rebecca Brickolo, and Zach Roski, and the tenant is representing itself in this transaction. In the event that a lease is executed between landlord and tenant, then landlord agrees to pay tenant's broker a leasing commission equal to 3% of the total lease volume, of which this leasing commission will be paid 100% by the landlord.
What you talking about, Willis?
I've never even heard of something like this.
Now this is y'all making this easy. Now I got funeral director on one side and I got a realtor on the other. So
I looked at this
Madam
thing,
Madam
and
Never
President,
heard of it.
what in the heck are they talking about?
I have no idea.
usually you bring your own person and everybody pays their own guy, okay? Actually, in a real estate transaction, the buyer pays no commission. The seller pays the
Pays the
commission,
commission.
but it's split between the buyer's agent and the seller's agent, okay? In this lease arrangement, the only time I've ever done one was for the building where Pizza Hut is in Amelia. I was representing the landlord, and they paid the commission to me. The buyer or the tenant paid no commission, okay? All right, and now, so I asked Ms. Bricklow, I said, I don't think we necessarily need an agent. We certainly don't want to pay 3% as a commission to the agent of your choosing.
What is that? $22,000 a year?
No, it's not that much. I think it came like $8,000 a year.
$8,000 a year?
So I spoke with the agent with CB Rich Ellis. On August 2nd, I received correspondence, or a letter dated August 2nd. It was received August 7th. And I believe her name is Eileen Cortalica, Commercial Asset Manager with Bon Secours. And I said, are you sure this is correct? And she sent me a correspondence, and the letter confirms that Bon Secours Health System has engaged CB Rich Ellis to act as its exclusive real estate agent, or excuse me, real estate service provider to perform brokerage services directly or indirectly through a subagent with respect to all above referenced transactions. And that's fine. They want to use Rich Ellis, that's their choice. We require that you work directly with the broker regarding any and all renewal negotiations, and that's fine. And that the broker is paid a market real estate commission by the owner. They've confirmed it. So I spoke with Harold Cummings with Bon Secours, and I said, this can't be right. And he said, no, it doesn't sound right, I'll call you back. So that was yesterday afternoon when I was sitting in line at McDonald's with my kids, and I'm waiting on something from them. We still have until January of 2019 to execute this thing, okay? So we're in no hurry, but I don't think we should pay the commission
No.
to the. to the-
Well, So I've
Do
got, like I
nothing?
said, I've got Madam President's realty here on one side. It's pretty cool. This is an easy meeting, but I got a couple questions. Looks like we can go one or two ways. We can tell them, or we can just add whatever that is to the $22.
Either way.
Either way. I mean, that's the two solutions that I can think of. Do y'all know of any other solution? I can't see the taxpayer paying a commission for something. No, I can't. I mean, I've always paid my employees, for work they've done. I don't pay them for work they don't do. I can't figure this out.
I've never run across anything, but the gentleman who's in charge of the physical plant for Bon Secours promised me he'd call me back, and I'm expecting a call at some point, but maybe not today.
Well,
But I spoke to him
so-
yesterday afternoon, but I don't think we ought to enter into that unless he can give us a compelling reason. And then if he does, then I think we just need to find out what the market rate, it may not be $22, it may be something in excess of that, and then add 3% and just let them pay it. But I don't think the citizens of Blackstone should be paying.
I can't
But we didn't
support
pick
that
nor
either.
procure. We neither picked nor procured these people.
Now, you know, if they want, if they are compelled to pay $8,000 or $10,000 to these people for whatever reason, well, that's their business, and we have no business to, delve into Bon Secours' corporate foolishness here, is what it looks like to me, but, I would think we would just adjust the $22 per square feet so that the figure pay, and they can do what they want to.
I still need to find out if the 22 is the appropriate figure. I need to do some research, maybe Barbara can help me and find out what a commercial building in South Central Virginia should be going for, and it may be 22, maybe more, maybe less. But make sure that we've got some methodology to figure
No, we
out.
don't want to talk about less.
Make sure that the 22 at least is an appropriate figure.
I just have a problem that if they've offered us $22, then that's what the taxpayer deserves. I just can't see handing some. I mean, you know, I'm starting to get put out with engineers and stuff. Yeah, I mean, you got to be
Realtors.
kidding me, man. I mean, so you're gonna sit here and you're gonna help. They've already done all the work, boilerplated this. You're gonna sign this. You can get $8,000 a year for how long is this lease? 5 years? Really?
It's worth $40,000. The life of the 5 years would be a $40,000
Somebody's gonna get a $40,000
commission and never.
commission and never hit a
communicate
lick
with
at a
us.
snake. Okay, so I move that we recommend to council that the per square foot rate be increased to accommodate their request.
I think we hold because we're not even sure the 22 is right. It may be more. It may be 25. Maybe 26. Well, let's do some researching to see what going lease rates are.
No,
In the
I
area.
withdraw my motion.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Time.
I'm doing all talking here, but I want to hear what they think. I do not see us signing an agreement that is giving taxpayer money to some agent for nothing.
I'm not
Do-
comfortable that
do
you
you
can-
I
agree?
agree, I agree.
Will you have some figures by the
Yeah.
by the council meeting?
Maybe Barbara can help me and get on MLS and see what some lease rates are.
Okay.
Yeah. I know. But I just don't see legally, if you haven't procured this person, we would put Barbara through a procurement process to be our agent, and they're gonna handle both sides of the transaction, or handle one side and we still gotta pay them?
I don't think.
Only if you agree to it.
Exactly. Now, on the other hand, you know, I don't ever get put out with business trying to get all you can get, you know? So I'm not upset about it, but I'm not gonna vote to give the taxpayer money
You can agree
to
to
somebody
it.
for doing something for nothing. I do that enough in engineering fees, you know? So I've been waiting to get that dig in. So what's your next item?
Next item on your agenda.
Veterans Day, right?
I don't know too awful terrible much about this, but I think this is something the mayor had promoted at one point, and I think for 2018, Veterans Day 2018, I think there's some interest in having some kind of a Veterans Day event in Sea Park.
There's an attachment behind the mayor's thing. I don't really understand it, I just printed everything he sent me.
And while I'm thinking about it, I want to make sure everybody understands that it's an annual $8,000.
Yes, I'm
It's an
talking about.
annual
It's,
fee,
it's,
okay.
it's 40, it could be up to $50,000 for doing nothing. I can't, I mean, no, I'm not gonna support that.
Something wrong with that picture, isn't it?
You can get
As
it.
my granddaddy would say, that dog don't hunt. All right, for everybody's, information, the mayor has sent an email that said, that native daughter Ann Lewis Rand West, which is my wife's aunt, has suggested that we do something in Veterans Day. It's the 100th anniversary of Veterans Day, and it happens to be the 25th year anniversary of Sea Park. And he asked that we consider having some kind of ceremony. I would certainly support that. Is this something in your wheelhouse that you could put together, Ms. Wilson? Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can together maybe drag Zach Whitlow into it with DBI.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. Can we, and maybe start maybe ask Rotary if they want to get into it. I think it's a wonderful idea. We're certainly a military town. We certainly support our military. But I think doing something official on the 100th, I mean, it's a beautiful service. I was out of town this year, but it's a beautiful service, and I would just like to see us move forward. So
we'll do our.
I'm pledging the committee's back into anything y'all come up with,
Okay.
and just let us know.
The email is talking about on the light poles and
Mhm.
Kilmarnock that they did flags and
Right.
whatever, so I don't know if that's a start or what, but.
So how many of these flags do we have? How many of these flags do we have downtown?
The ones that are on the poles, I'm gonna guess we probably have 30 or 40 of them.
And how old are they?
Bottom the first year I was here,
Yeah, we usually keep them,
2012.
yeah, they keep them on curling press.
They don't look that bad. They're 5 years old, and we don't take them on and down.
Normally if we see one get bad, we replace it.
We could probably use a few. I think we've had a few get dinged up, maybe get hit by a truck or something. I wouldn't mind putting more in the parking lot and over near Bevel. Got a couple poles. I don't think it's a bad thing. And I think we have some of that Centennial money that we use for flag poles. If you'd like to increase the number of those banner flags, they last a whole lot longer than the flags that were on those poles that we had for many, many years.
So he said visited Kilmarnock, light poles, American flags, and pictures of these hometown heroes. So what does he want?
Here's some ideas. Here's some thoughts.
Okay.
Maybe we can do more banners, the flags. I don't think we can put them on every pole, but more poles in the parking lot. One of the things that we did in Amelia that was very popular is we sold the poles and we put a memorial plaque. And maybe there's families that would like for $200 or $250 for a veteran to put a memorial plaque on one of the poles downtown that would have a flag on it. Okay? And there'd be a fundraiser to do more flags or to do an increase in the monument or something like that. But putting memorials to servicemen and veterans on the flagpole, we didn't do it for veterans, but we did it for families. In Amelia, if you look around the town square, there's memorials on there. And we're not asking people to buy the pole. In Amelia, we were asking them to buy the pole. So a memorial plaque cost you $2,200, and you got a plaque with it. And so what I would say is put more additional flags out and do the dedication plaques, $200 or $150 or whatever it might be, and put them up there. And we can use that money maybe to enhance the monument in the cemetery. Okay. But I think Veterans Day logically is going to be in the cemetery or associated with the cemetery or the veterans monuments that we have, and somehow maybe enhance those and use those dedication plaques. And they're going to cost you about $100 if you do the brass ones. Tommy can probably do them and put them on there.
All
It's
right.
Veterans Day, November 11th.
It's 11/11/18. That's correct.
And in November 11th.
Okay. So that would give you time to put together a ceremony or something. Have a the cookouts that we do for the police department. Are they starting? Or what is the schedule of that?
Usually
Chief
in
said that-
September.
Chief said he was gonna do it in October because they were moving the day and you had to have 5 days in the month, like 5 Wednesdays or 5 Thursdays
Right.
in that month. To do the cookout, so I think he said he's starting in October.
I was just thinking about can we do all that at once? Memorial Day in the park. Get him involved. I mean, we got time? Can we ask council to give you how can I do this the right way? I'm trying to do this the
I
right
don't know,
way.
maybe 5 of us sit around and come up with a brainstorming idea. You appoint somebody from your committee. We get somebody like Jim Hogue or somebody that's active with the veterans. Yvonne and I, and maybe Zach Whitlow, and come up with brainstorm. This is what we want to do. We want to have events. Now we kind of have events already, but how do we tie it all in together? Brainstorm, figure it out. I'd like to do some things that we could do the dedication plaques. I always thought those were kind of cool when people would come to town. This is Grandpa's plaque, and do some things, or some things that are inlaid in the sidewalks, perhaps. But I think a cheap way or an expensive way to do it is get people to provide funds and have that in place on Veterans Day. We got Memorial Day in May. Veterans Day is in November, if I'm not mistaken. November 11th, 12th, thereabouts. And try to put that together and just have an event. Have something more than just a quiet event in the cemetery, maybe something more downtown in the town square. I don't know, what would be good? Get the Marine Corps band from, I don't know, Quantico or something to come in? Am I talking too much?
Not nearly enough.
All right, I'm sorry for our behavior. Mr. Hamner, we would like you to represent the committee and be in this group. Would you do that?
What are you talking on for the
Veterans Day,
Veterans Day?
putting the Veterans Day program together. Could you represent our committee? All right,
We'll
so
figure
what do we need to do so far as a recommendation to council?
Nothing yet, I don't guess. Let's come up with a plan, an idea. And then we'll
Well, I'd
figure out
like
what
you
we
to
wanna do.
I would like to get council's blessing to just turn y'all loose.
Okay.
And so, help me.
Make a recommendation to the council that, I don't think they need to appoint people, but maybe you'll have them in the motion appoint Mr. Hamner to a Veterans Day Planning Committee, including the town manager, Director of Community Development, Mr. Hamner, and various residents of the town, citizens of the town.
Is that the motion I just heard you make?
Yeah.
I second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, any other business before,
Do we want to deal with the one last cemetery issue about,
oh, yes, I'm sorry, yes. Now present that, we've got a clear mind.
our cemetery policy for the new section of the cemetery says clearly that an 8 grave section has to have the headstone in the center. On a 4 grave section, it does not specifically say it has to be in the center. It has been enforced that way, it's been done that way for however long since David was first employed here, certainly. And we've had somebody ask for an exception to the way we have enforced it, not what necessarily the policy says, but the way it's been enforced, to allow them to move a headstone away from the center of a 4 grave lot.